Reaction to that in a moment, but first, breaking news in China's coronavirus cover-up. Here with that, former Trump White House chief strategist Steve Bannon, the host of the podcast War Room Pandemic. All right, Steve, what are your sources telling you about Chinese covering up the virus?
Well, we know we're starting to have, Jesse, doctors, actually people associated with the Hong Kong lab and people associated with Wuhan, people associated with their entire biomedical and bioweapons defense industry start to defect and start to get information. There's a massive whistleblower campaign in China right now. People have to understand that Chinese people are the victims of the Chinese Communist Party. They've been the victims of the CCP virus, and they're starting to tell their story. Fox News broke an incredible story, I think it was yesterday, with Dr. Yan, who's the first of many that are going to start to come out. Some of them are already out in Europe, the United Kingdom and other places, and you're going to start to see now the intelligence agencies, the FBI, others start to put this together of what the real source of this virus was, how culpable the Chinese Communist Party is about this virus, particularly what they visited on their people and what they visited on the people of the United States. The Chinese Communist Party lied. 130,000 Americans died. We have an economic inferno in our country, an economic inferno around the world. We've blown up the balance sheets of the Federal Reserve, everybody else, to try to bridge this in a smart way. That is all the responsibility of the Chinese Communist Party. They have to be held accountable. And I think you're going to see a lot more Dr. Yans start to come forward. And I think she's got a lot more to say.
Oh, yeah, so the defections are going to blow the lid off this thing, and the president needs to be much more aggressive in the way he confronts the communist Chinese because they need to pay a price. Americans need to see them paying a price, and they need to feel it because that's going to unite the country around a common goal. So what did you think about my analysis about the stakes in the election in terms of the economic policy, merging that with the foreign policy, and then defining Joe Biden as the bumbling buffoon that he is?
That's the playbook right there. Look, the tell was the other day when Joe Biden, who's the senator from Wilmington, Delaware, remember, he represents all the global corporations. He's been the biggest globalist in the Senate for 40 years. He pushed WTO for the Chinese. He pushed most favored nation. He pushed NAFTA. You know, Chuck Todd said yesterday on an interview, it was kind of stunning to see Joe Biden trying to recreate himself as an economic populist and an economic nationalist. The reason is that's where the country is. Donald Trump is a populist. He's an economic nationalist. He's the first president to confront China, but there's so much more to do. Right now in Hong Kong, President Trump ought to drop the hammer. That is Czechoslovakia in 1938. President Trump ought to cut him off from the U.S. dollar. He ought to sanction Hong Kong Shanghai Bank, Bank of China, CITIC, Penang Group. He then ought to sanction individuals, Wang Qishan, and I think he ought to sanction President Xi.
Wow.
President Trump ought to throw down. President Trump ought to throw down. Look, the Chinese Communist Party, they did this because he had built a striver's economy and wasn't going to be pushed around. The Chinese Communist Party coming out of that weapons lab and hiding it. We now know, and Dr. Yan gives you a detailed analysis of how the Beijing CDC knew this back in late December, early January of 2020, late December of 2019. What she told Fox the other day is explosive. Every paper in the world's picked it up. I think you're just at the top of the first inning with her, and there are many more like her that are going to start come forward. Remember, people in China are decent, hardworking folks. They understand the brutality of the Chinese Communist Party. They understand that they are bad guys. It's a totalitarian dictatorship. And you're going to see, Jesse, many more things coming. But I think you laid out the playbook. What I would tell the president, it's action, action, action. You're the protagonist in this drama.
Right.
Drive the action. All Joe Biden can do is try. Joe Biden's got to recreate himself in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Right. Those are your voters, Mr. President. Just drop the hammer, more executive orders on Buy American, and hire American. Remember, Joe Biden wants to give amnesty to 20 million illegals that'll flood the workforce, that'll suppress wages for African Americans and Hispanics. He also wants to have full medical benefits for illegal aliens. This will crush the budget. President Trump is both buy American and hire American. And now's the time, I think, to drop the hammer on jobs, on China, on safety of the American way of life.
Plagiarized that out of the Donald Trump playbook. You zeroed in on something that I don't think a lot of people realize, though. So the senator from Delaware, Delaware is the state where all of the multinational corporations incorporate for tax purposes. So he's been doing their bidding for decades. And that's what this is all about. The guy is just a car, and he's being driven by powers that don't have the best interest of the American worker at heart. And Donald Trump needs to point that out day after day after day. Now, strategically, when you have Joe Biden hiding in the basement, for a while I thought maybe, you know what, he's surviving in the basement. Maybe Donald Trump needs to smoke him out. Now I'm thinking, you know what, let him stay in the basement. Let him not travel to swing states. Let him get rusty. Let him not see the country. And just have him just roll into the debates, not in fighting shape, thinking he's going to win like a boxer that doesn't train because the Vegas bookmakers have him ahead a few points. What do you think?
Look, I think that's one strategy. I also think if you want to smoke him out, it's not going to be rhetoric. You're going to smoke him out with action. Action, action, action on jobs, on EOs about jobs. The thing, Biden's line he tried to use in the president is that all you care about is the stock market and the investor class. That's the biggest chutzpah I've ever seen. It was Joe Biden and Barack Obama that in their administration we had the greatest concentration of wealth in world history from the crash of 2008 until Donald Trump took the oath of office. Donald Trump's economy, although we had a robust stock market, Donald Trump's economy was a striver's economy. Remember, it's the first time the working class people's wages were increasing more than people with college degrees.
Yeah,
that's what
Donald Trump actually decreased the income inequality that was exacerbated during the Obama-Biden years. You know, it's everything's backwards, but I think that the playbook is out there to win this thing. It just needs to be simple and strong and, you know, relentless day after day after day. Look, no tie, Bannon. I'm pulling the Bannon look. What do you think?
Jesse, he's a man of action. He's a man of action,
right.
Jesse. All we need is action, action, action. Let Joe Biden try to recreate.
Thank you.
Let Biden try to recreate himself when you're the guy you are.
All right.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, Steve.